And good day, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 1 o'clock East Coast time here in the United States, and I like to start our webinars on time here. So I know there are a few people that still have to sign on, but I just wanted to go ahead and get us going. And first of all, by getting us going, I'm going to most importantly say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join me today to learn a little bit about BigPicture, what it does, and how it can integrate with PrecisionTree and vice versa. So how to learn a little bit about PrecisionTree, what it does, and how it integrates with BigPicture. So my name is Michelle Jackson, and I am the product coordinator for BigPicture here at Palisade Corporation. And for those that may not be familiar with Palisade, we are a global company that started back in 1984 with our headquarters based here in Ithaca, New York. And we're the developers of the leading risk and decision analysis add-ins for Excel. Primarily At-Risk is our flagship product, and then we have a variety of other decision tools that are included in our decision tool suite, two of which are the two that we're going to cover today. So today I just want to let you know we are only going to scratch the surface on both of these tools. So there are other webinars out there that you can watch and learn from that will delve a little deeper into both of them. But today I just wanted to give an overview of how these two can come together and how they can be used in sync with one another. Synergistically, I guess you could say. So if you don't already have the software installed, you can download a 15-day trial by going to our homepage at Palisade.com. Click on the Decision Tool Suite here, and that will take you to the Decision Tool Suite product page, and then you can do your free trial download. With that free trial download, it is a 15-day trial download. It does not have any limitations, and you will be able to get all of the other products that come with it so that you can play with them. So let's first of all get started with our PrecisionTree program. So I'm going to just go ahead and close this out here, and we're going to open up our PrecisionTree application here. So basically, what is PrecisionTree? Well, I could just throw some facts at you and I could just tell you about it, and I could just list off all the cool features of it. Or I could start by asking you some questions first so that mentally you can think, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, I've done that. Oh, maybe I've done that. And this is where PrecisionTree could fit into my life, into my daily decision making. So have you ever been faced with a complex, multi-stage decision like, what is the best strategy for testing and drilling for oil? Or should we build a new plant or buy an existing one? Or maybe bidding on a new project? What should you bid? How should you react to your opponent's bid? Should you counter offer? Or perhaps maybe you're faced with determining what the best litigation strategy is in a legal dispute. Today we'll cover a wrongful termination breakdown to show you an example of that. Or maybe you're responsible for finding out the best series of medical tests and procedures to maximize a patient's chance of recovery. So basically, have you ever been faced with a complex, multi-stage decision? Not a simple one like, do I feel like hitting the snooze button today? A multi-level decision. If so, that's where PrecisionTree comes in for you. Essentially, PrecisionTree helps you tackle these kind of complex sequential decisions in a graphical way. Basically, it gives you the opportunity to map out, organize, and analyze the decisions using decision trees while staying right in Microsoft Excel. So you might have noticed here, we're in PrecisionTree. So you see we're here. There's a tab called PrecisionTree. But some people might look and go, actually, you're in Excel. You're right, we're in both, because PrecisionTree, BigPicture, At-Risk, all of our tools here that we develop here at Palisade are all add-ins for Excel. So what the benefit of that is, there's many benefits to it, but one of the key benefits is it gives you a place that you're comfortable in. So even though you're new to PrecisionTree, and you might enter into PrecisionTree, open up a blank workbook and go, okay, what do I do now? The reality is you're in Excel. It's a comfortable environment. It lessens the learning curve. And on top of that, it allows you to keep all of your planning, your data, and all your results all in the same place. And today, with BigPicture, we're going to be able to show you how to do your brainstorming in Excel, your planning, your decision trees, and also presenting right out of Excel by using our tools. So to be able to stay in one place and not have to bebop around in between different software packages. So, decision trees. So we're going to start with those today. Decision trees are at the heart of what PrecisionTree is all about. There are also influence diagrams and other features within PrecisionTree, but the heart of what PrecisionTree is about is decision trees. So we're going to cover a couple decision tree examples today and show you how those can be viewed using BigPicture and how they can be used in a slideshow in BigPicture as well. So essentially, decision trees are quantitative diagrams with nodes and branches represent different possible decision paths and chance events. This essentially helps you identify and calculate the value of all the possible alternatives. So you can choose which is the best option for you with confidence because you've mapped it out and you've put thought into it. You're not just doing it by a gut feeling, you're actually mapping it out and looking at how old data affects it, etc. Decision trees essentially provide a formal structure, like you see here, in which decisions and chance events are linked in sequence from left to right. And that's where the major difference is going to be. Two major differences between PrecisionTree and BigPicture. You can create this sort of tree, this diagram looking thing, in BigPicture. But the difference is PrecisionTree will make it completely quantitative. It'll do that extra calculation at the end, and it will also be presented only going from left to right. You'll see when we get into BigPicture, we can start from the center, we can move things around, we can do all sorts of crazy things. So the result is a tree structure with the root on the left and the various payoffs all the way at the other end on the right, and the probabilities of those payoffs all the way on the right. With PrecisionTree, you'll see the payoff and probability of each possible path through the tree. And that's what those blue numbers are. And we're going to walk through a basic terminology example in just a moment. But I just want you to see what a bigger tree looks like. So PrecisionTree essentially determines the best decision to make at each decision node and marks the branch for that decision true. So you'll notice when you look through here, you're going to see anytime there's a decision node, which will be represented in green, decision nodes are green, you will see either a true or a false. The best decision out of those two is going to be marked true. And as you add onto your tree, that may change depending on what you're adding. But right now, the path for this particular example, this is true. And then when you get to a red circle, that is what's called a chance node. So it's out of your control. So there's no sense telling you what the true path and false path is because the reality is it's not in your control. Now it's all based on probabilities. So it's a chance node. You're taking a chance. So at that chance node level, there's percentages listed. So instead of true false, you're going to enter in percentages. And then, again, now we see a decision node. Now we're going to see the true false options off of those decision nodes. So whenever you have a decision node, you're going to have that true false option. Whenever you have a chance node, you're going to have probabilities. And we're going to get into a little bit more of this in a bit, but this is just kind of quick overview so that when we see it again, it'll kind of hit home a little better for you. Once your decision tree is complete, PrecisionTree's decision analysis creates a full statistics report on the best decision to make and its comparison with alternative decisions. And that's great, especially for our users that are super quantitative in nature. this is a nice way to summarize it, because sometimes you have to do these decision trees so that you just have a summary to present to your board or to your CEO or to whomever to go, this is the best decision, these are the probabilities of all the different options happening. If they want to see the tree, you can also show them that as well. PrecisionTree can also create what's called a risk profile graph that compares the payoffs and risk of different decision options. And it displays probabilities and cumulative charts showing the probabilities of different outcomes. And we'll touch on that briefly later on, but for now I want to simply go to the basic tree terminology, just so you can see it. And I actually went at it via recent files, because of course right before a webinar I always go through and kind of get my files that I'm going to be using, make sure everything is clean. I didn't save it in a state where I was doing a demo or anything like that. But I should show you. When you are in any of our Decision Tools suite tools, if you would like to explore some example files, simply click on this Help menu here and then go Example Spreadsheets. And that will take you basically to a table of contents on what we have to offer as far as files that we include in our software that you can just get started with playing with right away. So this is that basic tree terminology that I essentially just opened. So whether or not you're in PrecisionTree or BigPicture, which is the next tab over, you will just simply go to the Help and go to Example Files. If you would like to see the documentation, you can go here and find your stuff here. If you want to launch any of your other decision tools, say at risk or neural tools or what have you, you can launch that right from here. And what's nice about this is I have obviously PrecisionTree and BigPicture open already, but you could have had just PrecisionTree open, and then you can just launch BigPicture straight from here as well without having to double click on the icon on the desktop or in the Start menu. So let's go back here to the basic terminology window. So when I'm here, when you first look at this decision tree, it may seem overwhelming because it's so heavily annotated. However, it's worthwhile to show this one to you so that you can refer to it on your own time, because I'm going to just breeze through this stuff, and if you've never dealt with decision trees, you might not feel comfortable with it. So if you're a user on this webinar or you're a BigPicture user on this webinar, you've never even heard of PrecisionTree, and you're just checking out wondering, what is this other program that she's talking about? Maybe you're new to PrecisionTree. This will give you just a quick overview, and now you know where to go to learn about it, so that you're not just getting all this information thrown at you at once. Or maybe you're watching the recorded version of this. So again, this is a file that's included, and what this does is this just helps you to understand the basic terminology, so that when I'm saying nodes, chance nodes, decision nodes, and nodes, all that, you'll see what I'm talking about. So if we start from the root of the tree, like I mentioned before, that's the left part. That's the tree name. That's the root of the tree. And then we move to the right, and we have what's called a decision node. And basically, it essentially is exactly what it sounds like. This is a point where we have to make a decision. And like I mentioned earlier, after all the numbers in your tree is done, PrecisionTree will go ahead and put in that true-false decision indicator, suggesting which decision you may want to make at that level. And that is what's called the decision indicator, which is right here. Then, of course, there's branch names. So you can see branch names yes, no here. So this is a lottery example, and we are going to do a handmade lottery example in just a moment. But so you have the branch names, the yes and the no, and branch values. Costs $2 for a ticket, or if you don't buy a ticket, it's $0. You have branch probabilities, which are located here. And again, the probabilities are because this is a chance node. And this chance node is something, again, that's out of our control, so we have to give probabilities. Then we have our path probability, which is going to be shown in the right at the end in the path value. So let's go take a look at that oil one again. I'll close that out. I just want to show you where to find those descriptions. And the end node is the blue triangle. I don't think I mentioned that. So We're going to go back here so we can see a bigger one, a bigger example than just a two-tier lottery example. In this example, which is also part of the files that you can that automatically download when you install PrecisionTree, this example demonstrates the use of PrecisionTree to analyze that multi-stage decision process. So what is the decision process that we're trying to make in this one? Essentially, a company must decide whether to drill an oil well at a particular site. Drilling the well is obviously expensive, and the company doesn't know in advance exactly how much oil it will find. So that's where the project is risky. And that's what our tools do here at Palisade, is it helps to give you a little more confidence in the decision that you're making when things are risky. So essentially, in this situation, the customer or the company has the option of running a geological test right away at the cost of $55,000, and that's where you can see that here. So you see the cost is $55,000. This test will provide some indication of the amount of oil present. The first decision is whether to run the geological test. Do we spend the $55,000 or do we not, and then just drill? What are we going to do? Okay, and that's where the choice is there of test or don't test. Okay, so you can see test or don't test. If the test is run, 3 results are possible. It could potentially indicate that the well is dry. It could indicate that there's a small amount of oil there, or it could indicate that there's a large amount of oil. Each of these has a probability given the amount of oil in the ground. So after each of these test results, and also in the case where no test is run at all, the company must decide whether to drill, which costs $600,000, and at what point. So are we going to drill here, or are we going to drill after we indicate that it's dry, indicates that it's small, indicates that it's large? The payoff from a dry well is 0, obviously. So you see, you can scroll up here. So the payoff from a dry well is $0. The payoff from a small well is $1,500. So you can see this here. So dry, 1,500,000 or 3,400,000. Okay. So there is the probability here as to whether or not it's going to indicate that's a large well, small well, dry well. Then you have to decide, are we going to drill or not drill? If we drill, there are probabilities again of, is it a dry well, is it a small well, or is it a large well? Okay, and those probabilities are based off of maybe past data that you've collected, based off of other situations where you drilled, what have you, after where the test was done before. So the tree itself illustrates the structure of the decision problem. And all the monetary values and probabilities have all been entered directly into this tree. And the tree indicates the best decision is to run the geological test and then drill only if the results indicate a small well or a large well. Well, that's, you could have come up with that on your own. It makes sense. You could have done that with your gut. Because obviously, if you test and it indicates that it's dry, you're not going to drill. So it's not like rocket science at that point. But what you can see is it lays out that decision for you, and then you can see the values and the probabilities. Like, okay, there's an 18% chance that we will have that $845,000 bump versus the 6% of having $2,745,000. So where is your risk threshold? And that's also part of decision making. So we can come back to this afterwards, but you can see essentially if we followed these best paths, this is the value of the average amount of value based on these probabilities, these payout values, what have you. So obviously, the gas and oil industry changes all the time. So these values of how much they're going to earn based on a small well or large well is all going to be connected with supply and demand of oil at that time too, and where the economy is. So, what's nice is once you get this template down, you can just change the values, change the probabilities, whatever you need to change, it's already there. So now the big question is, how do you build a tree? Because most of the times you're going to come into PrecisionTree, and unless you're double clicking on a file, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a blank screen, and that might be intimidating because you see a blank screen and you go, all right, where's my decision tree? I'm going to show you how to create a decision tree. All you do is you start by clicking on decision tree, and we're going to say yes, we're going to start at that thing. Automatically you will see that it'll pop up the dialog. So we're going to start the name of this tree, and we'll go ahead and say we're going to do our own lottery one, just because I think a lot of people understand lotteries and it's applicable to most people instead of just the oil and gas industry or what have you. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. You'll see it automatically names it, and it automatically provides this end node. We're going to start with a decision node. So all I do is I right mouse click and say insert node. Oops, hello. How about I click here? Oh, I see what. Hang on one second. I was like, where's my window? That's what happens when you have two screens. If my window's button up against it. So we're going to go ahead here and we're going to say, we click on the node and we say decision node. And we have this decision node here. With the decision node, we're going to enter buy a ticket or walk away. So all we have to do is for branch 1, say buy ticket or walk away. Okay. I'm going to click OK, and then we're going to say I want to add another decision by clicking on the end node of buy a ticket. So I click on the end node and add a decision. And in this decision, I would like to add a standard game or a systems entry, because they have this special thing at this lottery place that has a systems entry. When you enter, you pay more, but your winnings are more. Okay, we're going to try to determine whether or not it's best for me to stay where I'm at, or with a standard, or walk away, or have the systems entry. So the standard one costs $10. Systems entry one costs $45. So we're going to do that negative because it costs us money, right? So I can enter it here in the dialog, or I can enter it directly into the tree itself. So if I click OK here, I can do that. Now what I also should show you is while you're in here, if I click here, I can also link this to another cell in the workbook. Why is this important? Well, how about if you just did an at-risk simulation and you came up with certain values? You can actually link directly to another cell in the workbook. Or maybe you have just your standard P&L and you're just pulling numbers every month from that same cell, but it's an updated P&L. You can go ahead and link to that particular cell and it will put that in there. So I just want to point that out as well. So I click OK here. I can also change the values directly here in Excel. So if this was negative 55, I can change it there. But just to stay along the path of the example that I have drafted up, we'll stick with the 45. So before we go any further, I just want to show you that PrecisionTree states that walking away would be the best course of action by placing true here. So you can see the true here, right? And this makes sense because we haven't added any payout values or probabilities. So right now we're either losing $10, losing $45, or we're losing nothing. Obviously, we want to lose nothing and just walk away. But now when we add our chance nodes to our tree, you'll see PrecisionTree will automatically take into account the weighted averages and update that decision indicator. So now from the standard ticket branch, we are going to add a chance node. Again, we click on this, we select chance, and we go ahead and start adding in our chance options here. So the first chance node that we're going to do, there are 3 chances when you purchase a ticket. You could lose money, and the probability of that is 90%. You could win small, and the probability of that is 9%. Or we could win big, and the probability of that I'm going to leave at 0 because I'm going to show you something. So we could win big. If I go ahead and click OK here, it says the probabilities defined for this node do not add up to 100%. Do you want to correct this before exiting this dialog? So it warns you, like, hey, that doesn't make any sense. That's not 100%. Something's wrong. You have to make sure those 3 values. If I go ahead and click yes and click OK, oh no, do I want to update it? No. How about if I say no? If I say no, it's going to create these almost error messages with these values here. And the reason why is because it's saying, hey, you don't have 100% here. So let's go ahead and change that to 1, and then you'll see those error messages change. So if ever you see those error messages, there's a chance that your probabilities aren't adding up to 100. So there we go. So we've added in our percentages. Okay. Now, what are the winning amounts? Because right now we have these probabilities here. It's still saying 100% walk away. Why? Because we haven't put in any payout values. So our win amount is going to be, win small amount is going to be 80, and our win big amount is going to be 400. So now you're going to see these probabilities and the payout, and essentially it is saying go ahead and buy a ticket, because see, now you see the true flip-flopped, right? It did have true here before. Now it has true here based on our payout values. Buy a ticket and buy a standard game. Do not buy the system's entry. Okay. Why does it say do not buy the system's entry? Because we haven't entered any payout values. So just like it was before, we still need to add those payout values. So we're going to go ahead and right-click on the chance node here and say copy Subtree, and then we're going to right click here and say paste Subtree, and it'll paste our Subtree here. So now we don't have to go back through and type in loss, lose, win, or win small, win big. Now for the systems entry, we have different payout values and different odds, right? Because what's the point of paying $45 over $10 if the odds are going to be the same and the payouts are going to be the same? So we have to change those values. And when the systems entry, I walked into the store and the systems entry marketing states that by using systems entry, your odds of winning are double. Therefore, instead of 9% and 1%, the odds are 18% that you'll win and 2% that you'll win big, which means we will also change the probability of losing to 80%. So we're going to do 80% here, and we're going to do 18% here, and then we're going to do 2% here. Okay? So now the question is it worth the extra money, the extra $35 to do a system entry ticket for $45 versus the standard entry ticket for $10. So I'm walking you through a sequential decision. Is it a big decision, important decision? No. But it's a sequential decision moving from left to right. There's different stages, different steps. There's different things to think about. Whether or not you buy the ticket or not, whether you buy a standard game or not. So, and then there's the chances that are thrown in there. So it's just showing you how you're walking through your logic as you're going through it. So we can see here that PrecisionTree shows the calculated weighted averages, which shows you are still coming out ahead if you choose the standard ticket, because $1.20, which is right here, is greater than losing $22.60. So these values right here are giving you the branch value, that whole section's value, and it's still saying this is bigger than this, so this branch is still going to be the true branch. Now, if you wanted to play around with the numbers here and say, well, if this was an $800 payout, does it change anything? Or if my odds of winning big were higher, so say instead of just doubling our odds, maybe we go ahead and say that it's these odds. Now all of a sudden you're going to go ahead and see it go here, and it's going to say go to this branch. So, it's all a matter of you having that ability to go in once you get your logic down and just change the values, and that'll keep it updated, which is beautiful because the logic is already in place. So you can play with the numbers to see where it would make a difference, etc. So obviously, like I said, this decision tree is quite small. However, I just want to point out the fact that PrecisionTree does have this ability to do this. And now that I have the system entry one, I'll also show you that. You can go here and say policy suggestion and ask for the optimal decision tree. And when I click that, it will actually show you that optimal decision tree. So that's where I was saying how, you can do this big oil and gas decision tree, and maybe someone doesn't want to see all the other options and you want to just keep it streamlined, you can go ahead and plop that in there. So now we've kind of gone through this whole thing with PrecisionTree and doing a decision tree. Now, what if we want to present this to others? Well, we could present this if we wanted to, or we can go back. Oops, I just did not mean to collapse that one out. Let me go back to my example here. There we go. Got our optimal tree here. Close that one out. Don't save. So here we have that tree. Now, what if we want to see this in BigPicture? We want to present this to others. So if I look up here in our PrecisionTree ribbon, we have this thing called View in BigPicture. So while I'm here, all I have to do is click View in BigPicture. And then it's going to say, do you want the oil example viewed in BigPicture, the lottery one, or the Bayesian revision? I'm going to do the lottery one for now. So if I go ahead here and click OK, it's going to go ahead and put us into BigPicture. And you'll notice the tab up here automatically hopped over to BigPicture because it knows now we're in BigPicture. And you see this decision, we see the buy a ticket. Now if I click on this expander circle here, we're going to see all of what we already saw in the last one with everything here. Now you notice while I'm clicking on these green circles, only one branch is opening at a time. What that is that actually is a feature within BigPicture saying single experience. It's asking you just to focus on one thing. Typically in a situation where it's a big map and we only want to focus on one thing, kind of like that optimal decision path, we may want to just have someone just pay attention to one part of our decision tree and not all of it. So for now I'm going to undo single expand, and I'm going to say no topics collapse, so it just expands it all out for us so we can see it completely. If I zoom out a bit, we can see it here. So this is our systems entry. What it does is, or what this linkage between PrecisionTree and BigPicture does, is it allows it to be a little softer, a little easier on the eyes, a little cleaner, a little more professional, and it automatically does this nice highlighting of the optimal path. because remember we changed the values here to say win big was 800 and you had a 10% chance of winning $800, then, and you can see that probability right here, so it automatically creates this easier on the eyes, I like to say, tree. So again, if I would like, I can turn on that single expand and we can expand things out, etc. Or if you notice, if I mouse over any of these shapes, these what we call topics in BigPicture, a little red X will show up. So if I click that X, it'll collapse it down. So if I want to just look at the diagram that way, I can, the tree that way. I can also do the same for this as well. So now we're in BigPicture. So now let's scratch the surface of BigPicture. We did PrecisionTree. Now we're going to do some BigPicture stuff. And what I just want to point out is when you're in DecisionTree, we have what's called nodes and branches. When we are in BigPicture, we have topics and connectors. So there's two terminologies going on here. There's nodes, which are essentially topics, and branches, which are essentially connectors. Okay, but now when I shift gears and start talking about BigPicture, I'm going to be talking about topics and connectors instead of nodes and branches. So what is BigPicture? And how does it differ from PrecisionTree? Well, I just told you about the nodes and everything like that. The other thing about BigPicture, and I mentioned this earlier, is that we're not locked into just doing from left to right. If I wanted to, I can easily add more branches and start from something coming from the center of something and building out. And that's what I'm going to show you now. So BigPicture, what is it? It's a diagram and mind mapping and data exploration add-in for Excel. Again, we're staying in Excel. And that may sound like this crazy conglomeration of sorts of different things that doesn't have a focus, but the reality is they're all linked together. Basically, it's just a way of exploring your decisions in a visual way. So let's go ahead. I'm going to close this one out because I don't think I do anything else with this. Close that guy out. Let's hope I don't close everything out on you. Okay, this is the last one that I've opened. So I'm in BigPicture. I want to open up an example spreadsheet. So here we go. We're in the example spreadsheet. The first one I'm going to, actually before I even do that, sorry, I apologize. I just had a brain blip. So let's go here. Okay, so here we are. That's the thank you you'll see later. So what is BigPicture? Basically, BigPicture is just a way to visualize and help you understand ideas and understand data. Okay, and we're going to learn about how we understand data, understand ideas in BigPicture when we go through a quick 6 hats mind map example and also our slideshow example of another decision tree. And we'll go through understand data. I'm going to do a quick data map. But in all it does, all BigPicture does, it takes complete advantage of the fact that humans are visual animals. And we tend to retain information better and grasp relationships better when things are presented in an image. So that's what we're doing. So PrecisionTree now has this ability to export quantitative decision tree models directly into BigPicture that turns them into those maps, but now we can also use BigPicture to almost map out what you're going to be doing afterwards with PrecisionTree. So you could use BigPicture to kind of brainstorm and get everything going and then put it into, so get those relationships going and build those relationships, and then you can put it into PrecisionTree and add values. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's go to our 6 hats example. Okay. Now, I assume that most people that are on this webinar or listening to this recording deal with doing decision making. And I really think this mind map kind of hits home on all different in all different industries, all different sectors within those industries, because the reality is this is just to talk about how to make collaborative decisions. So this is 6 hats of decision making, and essentially, if you haven't heard of it before, it is based off of Edward de Bono's thinking in his book Six Thinking Hats, an essential approach to business management. So Six Thinking Hats is uh, it's an effective parallel thinking process that helps people kind of come together and make a more mindful decision together. And what are the 6 hats? Well, the first hat everybody puts on all at once. It's this white hat that shows information, facts, and neutral concepts of what the problem is at hand and the data. Just basic facts. Then everyone takes off their white hat and everybody puts on their red hat. And they talk about their gut feelings about what they see happening with this particular decision that's at hand, whether it's an acquisition of a company, whether it's an actuarial deciding whether or not we take up this pool of applicants, that are high risk, what have you. So we get the facts, we get our feelings out, then we also start looking into the negative side of things, the black hat. We put on that black hat. What are we going to be cautious about? And oh, look, one of those concepts is risk. So for our Decision Tool Suite users out there that are watching this webinar, now you go, this is where at risk could tie in too. So we could tie in BigPicture, we could tie in PrecisionTree, and now we can also tie in at risk, because now we need to look at this decision that we're looking at and try to figure out what's the risk, what's the probability of that risk happening. So the next thing is optimism, looking at the positives, the pros, the logical, the good things. So I am essentially, without you even knowing it, presenting to you out of BigPicture. Right? You've sat here and you listened to me talk about 4 or 5 hats. Maybe the hats don't even matter to you. But what I wanted to point out is that I can actually do a presentation straight out of BigPicture. I'm not in PowerPoint, not in any other product. I'm in BigPicture. And all I did was I created this map as a summary based on this book. So also note, you can create these kind of visual maps that make it easier to explain it to others. Now, I could have shown you 5, 6 slides. The white hat does this and do a bullet list, and the red hat does this and do a bullet list. But when I skip over that white slide and go to that red hat slide, you no longer see that white slide. So I just want to show you how now BigPicture can be used to present. So you might have a presentation of just an overview, a brainstorming of what decision you had to make and what factors you had to take into consideration. So you could take this 6 hats of decision making and apply it to any decision you are doing right now or what you're about to do. Map out the different information, the different gut feelings, how you felt about it, blah, 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 etc. And then you can show them a decision tree. What were your final thoughts on how you mapped it all out? What was your logic behind your decision in order to map it out? So this is just showing you, I just want to show you how it all can kind of be incorporated together. Now, is BigPicture quantitative in nature? Like PrecisionTree was? Not right now. There's no data here, right? However, there is a way to incorporate data in BigPicture too, because of course if Palisade is going to produce a product or develop a product, it's going to have some sort of number crunching in it. It's just the way we roll. So I want to just quickly show you. So this is essentially a mind map based on that book. And how did I create it? Well, literally I just mouse over a topic and you draw out and you type. So the facts are Michelle had tie today. All you do is you click on your topics and you type. And then if you want to change the colors of your topics, you can right mouse click and say I want to change the fill of that topic. So I can say a white topic here. If I want to add an image into one of these topics, I can go ahead and say add picture. And I'll put up a placeholder here. Then I can say change picture and say I change and put, let's go ahead and put a big picture logo in there. So I can go ahead and do that. Or maybe I want to do like I did here with the hats, and I want to have a full picture, not just the one to the left here. And here again, I can slide in here and type in big picture. I can go here and say, actually, I don't want it to be just plain. I want to fill that with a picture. That picture I would like to fill with is this one. So there's our PrecisionTree logo. So there are different ways that you can customize it. I'll be entirely honest with you. I do mind maps for everything. I did a mind map to figure out what I was going to talk about during this webinar. I'm doing a mind map for another project that I'm working on. So it's just a way for me to get thoughts down on paper. And what's beautiful about it is it's something that more people should do in order to not only allow you to brainstorm, because we could all brainstorm, right? But when you brainstorm and you get it out of your head, it frees your brain up to start thinking of other things and other factors. So there are different ways that you can customize these maps, but that's something that I invite you to visit one of our pre-recorded Introduction to Big Picture webinars, because that actually walks through that. In the meantime, what I do want to do is I want to show you, so we showed you a little bit of freeform mapping, not much here, but to show you an end result of freeform mapping. We do have also what's called auto-generated maps. So I want to take you on a little exploration trail down that road. So I'm going to go back to our example spreadsheets, and when you're in the big picture example spreadsheets listing, you're going to see that we actually list things either by specific business areas or also by highlighted product features. And in this case, I want to show you the highlighted product feature of what's called a data map. I'm going to stay in the genre, I suppose, of energy, because we did oil and gas earlier. Now I'm going to go into energy and kind of all conglomerate together. So here we have an example that shows how Big Picture is going to generate a map, what we call a data map, from a set of data. And the data set in this example basically just lists major information about major electrical power plants in the Midwest. So things like the plant name, operating name, capacity, the type of energy, capacity is here, type of energy, the operating company, and also some detailed description or a link to a website in many of the cases there. If I go here to data map, I'm going to click on this, but I just want to point it out. Like you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on in the ribbon of Big Picture. You may or may not have noticed that there's less stuff going on now that our Big Picture, that our PrecisionTree decision tree is not opened up there. And I will show you that the difference again by opening up that a decision tree in Big Picture in just a little bit. But I just want you to just visually look at our ribbon, and then we're going to go back and we're going to look at it again, and it's going to have some PrecisionTree stuff in there. But Big Picture is smart enough to know, okay, we're in a spreadsheet situation, we're not in a decision tree situation, so these are the options we want to put up. So you may notice your ribbon might look different depending on where you're at in the software. So don't be alarmed that you're missing something or that you saw something in a help file and it doesn't match your ribbon, because the reality is it's all based on the context of what's actually in the spreadsheet. So when we go into this data map definition dialog, we're going in and we're basically asking Big Picture, I want you to select this data, and I would like you to create a map and sort it out based on state and then primary energy source. And then after that, I would like you in the end topics to go ahead and put the plant, operating company, the capacity, and oh, by the way, I want you to roll up those group topics. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to take the capacity of each of the plants and roll it up into the group topic. Now, I'd keep you in suspense longer, but I'll just create the map, and then we'll come back to that dialog to show you a few other things that you can do with it. So here we have all that data that you saw in that spreadsheet, and it automatically creates this visual map for you. So we have Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And then if I open this up, I can see in Indiana they have coal and gas. And oh, here's what they have for their coal. And if I want to see Illinois, I can go here and say, here's what Illinois has for the coal. But wait, I want to see them together. So I'm going to go ahead and click that display multiple tables, and I'm going to go back down here, and I'm going to open up that one too. But wait, I would like to see all of them opened at the same time at this level. So I'm not going to put on, I'm not going to have single expand on. I'm going to deselect single expand, and I'm going to head and open that up so I can see these numbers here all together. So there's all different ways that we can go back and forth on this here. And so here we have and you'll notice there's no green plus sign here on the side of coal and coal up here. Why? Because they're all already open here. However, the beautiful thing is it still allows me to collapse and close it out from here. So now you can see here, if I expand out, there's that plus sign, I can collapse there. I can do the same here, expand out and collapse here. So when we look at the coal in Indiana, I had check mark that one little spot, and basically I had said I want you to roll up the calculation. So what it does is it takes all of these values, adds them up, and puts them as a total here. So you see that 14,649. Then it takes all of these 14,649 plus 1,080 and adds it up to be the 15,729. And then all of the energy altogether becomes 57,000 here. Now what if our data changed? So remember 57,000 here, and I'm going to go in and change Gibson. So Gibson has 3131 here, right? So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to find Gibson, which is right here, and I'm going to say, whoops, 133131. Okay, I'm going to make it astronomical on purpose. If I go here, you're going to notice it's going to automatically update in my end table. It's going to automatically update here in the roll-up categories and all the way through here. Now, here's the beauty of it. By being able to do a data map of your data, now all of a sudden you have a little extra quality control. Because maybe someone accidentally typed in that extra 1 in front of that 33, 31, 30, I mean in front of the 31. Maybe they did 1, 3, 31, 31. They had accidentally did that extra 1, 3. They were happy fingers. So all of a sudden now you go, whoa, if I look at the states here, why is everyone else under 20,000? I have this 145,000. Is that possible? And then you can expand out and go, okay, it's in the coal one, because obviously that's the one that's higher. And then you can go in and all of a sudden expand it out. And ironically, there was a fun story of a user of ours who had gold and silver in his model. Those were two options, two grouping categories. So instead of having 5 states here, he had two grouping options. He had a gold and silver option. And he did up his data map. And all of a sudden he had a service option. So he had gold, silver, and service. What it was there was a typo. There was a line, everything was moved over in the one row, everything was moved over by one cell. And it created this random grouping category. So just by simply doing a quick data map, he was able to see, there's something wrong with my data file. So all of a sudden, BigPicture becomes this QA tool to help with the data, to help support your PrecisionTree, decision tree, and to help with the presentation in the end. So this is just a quick little data map there. We are starting to run low on time, so I'm not going to show you any of the conditional formatting or anything like that, but I highly encourage you to go ahead and take a look at our other BigPicture webinar just to get a feel for other ways that BigPicture can be used. In the meantime, I am going to close out here. Don't save. We can close out our little mind map. And I want to take you PrecisionTree has an example file called wrongful termination. And I'm going to show you how we can go from a decision tree that's already made here so we're back in PrecisionTree, okay? So we're here in PrecisionTree. This is the wrongful termination decision tree. And I'm going to go ahead and say view in big picture. So this is what it looked like. And then when we view it in big picture, we say OK. It automatically makes it nice and pretty. If I want to expand it all out, I say no topics collapsed. There's our nice and pretty map. I'll just back out the zoom a little bit so we can see it a little better here. So we expand it all out, and I want you to take note of the big picture ribbon right now. So in the big picture ribbon, we have this new view option called paths. If I click on paths, it gives us this nice breakdown here, and if I click on any one of those paths, it will highlight that path for me. So I can look and say, well, which is the one that's 53% likely? Oh, 53% likely, okay, it's going to be about litigation, and then we're going to ask it to go through this motion to dismiss, and then motion for summary judgment, and then we're going to lose. So 53% of the time we're going to lose $35,000. So we can walk through and show these paths just by clicking on any one of the options on the left, which is all part of Big Picture. So this is another way that Big Picture can integrate back with Decision Tree. So now I have this. Now what I also want to show you is with a decision tree that was then viewed in Big Picture, I created what's called a slideshow. And we'll open up this guy. So it looks just like the one you just saw, right? Because I took the example file and I just did this. Oops, here we go. Here, I got too many things open here. It might be because I have two of the wrongful termination things up here. So let me just reopen that little guy for us. We'll close all of those. Let's go back here and say, I want that guy. So here we have our wrongful termination. Now I also want you to point out, while I launch Big Picture here, I want to point out that you can still view this diagram, this map, this Big Picture item, even before I have Big Picture open. It was still able to be viewed, which is another beautiful thing, because then you can share it with others that don't necessarily have Big Picture or PrecisionTree. So create in PrecisionTree, view it in Big Picture, save it as an Excel file, and share it. So here we have, so we're back here, and this is, like I said, this looks just like the one that you saw, right? It has the settle or litigate. So what is this exactly telling us? Because it's a little overwhelming seeing all these red chance nodes and I don't understand it, and what is it? Well, I can go ahead and hit play here and I can walk someone through this. Now I could have also created annotation dialogues, but I didn't because I knew I'd be given this webinar, but next time I'm going to add those in there for you. But basically, this is a situation where you represent this gentleman named Mr. Johnson. He's a plaintiff filing a wrongful termination suit against his employer, ComCorp. You determine that if the case goes to trial, you have a 75% chance of winning and a 30% chance of winning big, meaning like $1 million verdict. So let me repeat that again. You determine that if the case goes to trial, you have a 75% chance of winning and a 30% chance of winning big. Big meaning $1 million verdict. On the surface, Mr. Johnson might think that's a heck of a deal. I have a 30% chance of winning $1 million. Who wouldn't play that game? Who wouldn't play that lottery ticket? I have a 30% chance of winning big. On the surface, it looks like a great idea for him. But first, you need to map out the actual decision process, and that's what we're going to do, just to make sure that that's really what we want to do. So this company, ComCorp, has made an initial settlement offer of $27,500. And this is the payoff if you settle. So right off the get-go. So at this point, am I going to say, I'll take the $27,500? Or am I going to go with that 30% chance of winning $1 million? Well, here we have, at this point, we go here. What we didn't realize is that on the surface, it just said if we go to trial. But we haven't discussed the steps it takes in order to get us to trial. And that's the important part of doing these sequential decision trees. So we're not making a decision based on the last step. There's other steps from the settlement option to the trial option that needs to be included in order to make an educated decision. So here you see that we assume that it costs $1,500 to negotiate the settlement agreement. So the net gain for that is $26,000. That's why that's $26,000, because it's going to cost $1,500 to negotiate the settlement agreement because you got lawyers, blah, 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 blah. So if you litigate, the estimated total legal fees will be $85,000. So if we end up litigating, coming to this level, the total amount is going to be $85,000. And let me go ahead and go to our next slide here. So if it's going to be $85,000 because we have this here, we have our $49,585. That is all rolled in. You're going to see this happen now. You estimate it's going to cost $10,000 to respond to a motion and that you have an 80% chance of winning. So we have an 80% chance of getting this respond to motion factor. So this is all part of litigation here. There is no payoff whether you win or lose. No payoff. Since the loss simply means the case ends with no award, which means you lost out on the ability to settle at this point, the $27,500. You lost out because when you get to motion dismiss, you lose and you're done. Or you win and you get to go to motion for the summary judgment. So now we're at this next level. So the next chance event you have, assuming you successfully overcome that motion to dismiss, is whether you can become court's motion for summary judgment. And this is a much harder challenge, and it's going to cost you $25,000 to respond to it. And now you only have a 1 in 3 chance, so you can see that here, of winning. If you win, it goes to trial, okay? So if you win, it actually goes to trial. At trial, you can estimate that there's a 25% chance of losing. There's a 15% chance of a low $2,500 reward, and there is a 15% chance of winning low, and there's a win medium of $100,000, and then, win low is 25. Winning high, there's that chance of getting that win high, that $1 million that was at the forefront. But the key factor is it's going to cost you $50,000 to prepare for trial. So if you notice now, none of those extra values are all in there. Okay, but you notice here it says that $950,000. We've minused off that $50,000 that's going to cost to prepare for trial. So that win medium, where it was going to be $150,000, 30% of chance of winning medium was going to be $150,000. We've minused off that $50,000, so that's where that's at. And that there's a 15% chance of winning low at $2,500. Then we minused off the cost of preparing for trial, which means you're actually losing money at that point. So now all of a sudden you have this situation where in the beginning it sounded so great, like let's go back and say we had a 75% chance of winning if it went to trial and a 30% chance of winning big. So you can look at that. So there's your 30% chance of winning big, and if you add up these probabilities, it was a 75% chance of winning. So you have the 30 plus the 25 plus the 15 here. So there was a 75% chance of winning. I'm sorry, I just looked at the lose here. not the 25%. I gotta do my math here. So 30 for win here, 30 for win medium, 15 for win low. Okay, so yes, there was a 75% chance of winning and only a 25% chance of losing. And that sounded really great in the beginning. But then when you use PrecisionTree to enter in all these values and use PrecisionTree to go ahead and look at it here. So we entered in all of these values along the way, and we did the 80%, 20%, 1 and 5, it's costing 25,000, it's costing 50,000. So we entered it all in here. And then we were able to show it here as a result. And the reality is, let's look here at our paths. Oops, I gotta stop showing the slideshow. So if we look at our paths, we can go to our optimal path, and then we can break that out and go, okay, our optimal path, is basically, you're just going to want to walk away from this, okay? Because we don't necessarily, so if I go here to our, I don't have, I'm like, why is my optimal path not showing up? Because I don't have my PrecisionTree launched. You need your PrecisionTree launch for that. So let's go ahead here. But your optimal path all of a sudden shows something different. Basically it's saying that you don't necessarily want to go through with that. So this gives you that walkthrough, that ability to tie yourself in. And I just looked at the time, and I just want to point out that while I was in that last file with the slideshow, that slideshow was built right into BigPicture. So let me just quickly again show you that. I'm sorry for bebopping around. I just looked at the clock. I get so excited about telling people about this stuff that I lose track of where I'm at here. And I'm thinking I might have done something with that file. Okay. So when we are in BigPicture, there is the slideshow ability that you can actually program everything right directly in to create a slideshow and walk them through it. And there are slideshow examples if you want to take a peek at them in the example data files. So I think that pretty much wraps up today. And basically, what I want you to walk away from this with is essentially the thought process of being able to utilize BigPicture and PrecisionTree simultaneously so that they can be used to brainstorm. Go ahead and brainstorm out what you're working on, strategically plan things, maybe create some templates for decisions that you make on a repeated basis and that repetitive basis, and that could be your PrecisionTree template or a BigPicture template also. You can use it for calculating. You can use PrecisionTree for calculating some of the probabilities to help figure out what your best path is. You can use BigPicture to present it. So there's all different ways that they can come in together. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you again for taking time out to listen to this. I know an hour in someone's time is a lot, and especially an hour and 8 minutes. So I know we're all super busy, so I just want to say if you have any questions whatsoever, I encourage you to reach out to me. My name is Michelle Jackson. It's mjackson@palisade.com. Again, Michelle Jackson, mjackson@palisade.com. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, interests, case studies that you're working on that you want to share, I would be more than happy to work with you or direct you to the appropriate person. So in the meantime, I just want to say thank you, have a splendid day, and bye for now.